Welcome. Find a comfortable position and allow your body and mind to settle into this space. Today, we embark on a journey to explore the wisdom of Buddhism, a philosophy and way of life that has provided a path to inner peace and enlightenment for over 2,500 years. This session is not merely about learning, it's an opportunity to connect with yourself, discover inner peace, and embrace clarity through the teachings of the Buddha. Buddhism begins with the story of a prince named Siddhartha Gautama, born into a life of luxury. Siddhartha left it all behind in search of the truth about human existence. He observed the realities of life, aging, sickness, and death, and realized that worldly pleasures could not protect us from suffering. After deep meditation under the Bodhi tree, Siddhartha attained enlightenment and became the Buddha, the awakened one. The Buddha's teachings offer practical guidance for navigating life's challenges, understanding suffering, and cultivating wisdom and compassion. He once said, "What we think, we become. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world." In this session, we will immerse ourselves in his teachings and find solace in their timeless wisdom. Before we delve into the teachings, let us prepare our bodies and minds for meditation. Sit comfortably with your spine straight but relaxed. Gently close your eyes or soften your gaze on a single point. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest as you inhale and exhale. Feel the cool air entering your nostrils and the warmth as it leaves. This simple act of noticing your breath is the foundation of mindfulness. The Buddha taught, "Meditate, do not delay, lest you later regret it." Meditation is not about silencing your thoughts. It is about observing them without judgment and creating space between your thoughts and your reactions. As we transition into the teachings, carry this sense of presence with you. You are here in this moment, and that is enough. Now, let us immerse ourselves in some of the Buddha's most profound teachings. Each teaching will be followed by a moment of silence, allowing you to reflect and absorb its meaning. On impermanence anicca, the Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent." When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. What is impermanence? Impermanence, anicca, is the truth that all phenomena and existence are in constant flux. Everything that exists changes over time, fades, and is reborn. This is the natural order and the essence of life. For example, think about the changing seasons. Spring transitions into summer, summer into autumn, and autumn into winter. Similarly, our bodies change. Youth does not last forever, and our thoughts and emotions are also in constant motion. Joy, sorrow, anger, all are fleeting. Understanding impermanence is the first step toward letting go of attachment. We create suffering by clinging to things as if they will not change. By accepting that everything is in a state of flux, we can embrace life as it is and live more deeply in the present moment. Meditation guide. Take a deep breath. As you inhale, imagine the worries or fears you are holding onto and how they naturally shift and fade. As you exhale, visualize those worries drifting away like leaves carried by the wind. Feel your mind becoming lighter and freer as you accept the flow of change. The Buddha said, even death is not to be feared by one who has lived wisely. Change is constant. By embracing the truth of impermanence, we see life's fragility as a reason to live with intention and presence. Think of the fleeting beauty of a blooming flower. Its brief existence is no less profound because it is temporary. So too is our life. Change is never painful. Only the resistance to change is painful. We suffer most when we fight the natural flow of life. Letting go of resistance brings peace. Like a drop of dew or a flash of lightning, everything is fleeting. This fleeting nature reminds us of the preciousness of every moment. On suffering dukkha, the Buddha said, suffering is rooted in desire. Free yourself from attachment, and you will be free. What is suffering? Suffering dukkha is more than physical pain or discomfort. It encompasses the dissatisfaction and emptiness we often feel in life. The Buddha taught that we suffer because we constantly crave something, be it material possessions, experiences, or emotional states. And when we don't get what we want or lose what we hold dear, we suffer even more. The Buddha said, pain is certain. suffering as optional. Pain is a part of life, but suffering comes from our relationship to that pain. Choose acceptance and reduce suffering. Happiness does not depend on what you have or who you are. It solely relies on what you think. We often attach happiness to external things, but true peace begins within. No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path. Responsibility for our suffering and our liberation lies within us. Suffering originates from desire tanha. We want to own more, live longer, and feel better. But the world does not always align with our desires. This conflict is the root of suffering. Suffering is an inevitable part of life, but the Buddha showed that it can be understood and transcended. He taught us to face suffering without avoidance, to explore its origins, and ultimately, to let go of the attachments that cause it. Meditation Guide. What desires or attachments are you holding onto right now? Are they bringing you peace, or are they creating restlessness within you? Acknowledge them without judgment. Take a deep breath, observing these desires, and as you exhale, gently release them. In this moment, you are enough. The Buddha said, attachment leads to suffering. Detachment leads to freedom. When we hold tightly to desires, we chain ourselves to dissatisfaction. Freedom comes from loosening that grip. The more you let go, the higher you rise. Releasing attachments is like shedding heavy burdens. It allows the spirit to ascend. Just as a snake sheds its skin, we must shed our past over and over again. Letting go of past hurts and expectations allows for renewal and growth. On Mindfulness Sati, the Buddha said, beware you are otherwise, you will miss your life. Mindfulness Sati is the practice of being fully present in the moment. It is not just about being aware of what you are doing, but also about accepting your thoughts, emotions, and experiences as they are. Mindfulness liberates us from the regrets of the past and the worries of the future. It anchors us in the present. Imagine drinking a cup of tea. Mindfulness is about noticing the aroma, the warmth, and the flavor, fully experiencing the act of drinking tea. This simple joy is the essence of mindfulness. Mindfulness also helps us observe our thoughts and emotions. When anger arises, instead of suppressing or reacting, mindfulness allows us to say, "Wow, I am feeling anger right now." This awareness creates space, allowing us to respond rather than react. Meditation guide. Feel your body in this moment. Notice the sensation of your feet touching the ground and your breath entering and leaving your nostrils. Whenever your mind begins to wander, gently bring it back to the present. This moment is all there is. The Buddha said, "Your work is to discover your world and then with all your heart give yourself to it." Mindfulness is not about detachment from life, but full engagement with the present. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. True contentment arises when we stop looking outward for what only the mind can provide. When the mind is pure, joy follows like a shadow that never leaves. By cultivating a clean and calm mind, happiness naturally accompanies us. Let us now explore how the Buddhist teachings can be applied to our daily lives. The Buddha's insights are not merely philosophical, but serve as practical tools for personal transformation. The Four Noble Truths. The Buddha's teachings begin with the Four Noble Truths, a framework for understanding and overcoming suffering. Life is suffering, dukkha. Life is inherently imperfect, filled with pain, dissatisfaction, and unease. Suffering includes not only physical pain, but also the mental anguish caused by desire, craving, and attachment. The cause of suffering is craving tanha. Suffering arises from our constant yearning, whether it is for material possessions, pleasurable experiences, or emotional states. We grasp at what we desire and resist what we dislike, creating a cycle of dissatisfaction. Suffering can end nirodha. Liberation from suffering is possible. By letting go of craving and attachments, we can achieve a state of inner peace and freedom known as nirvana. The path to the cessation of suffering is the Noble Eightfold Path Magga. This path provides practical steps to overcome suffering and achieve enlightenment. The Noble Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path consists of the following 8 practices, each guiding us toward ethical living, mental clarity, and spiritual wisdom. Right view. understanding life as it truly is. This involves recognizing the impermanence of all things, the nature of suffering, and the interconnection of life. For example, acknowledging how excessive desire leads to anxiety is a step toward liberation. Right intention, cultivating thoughts of goodwill, compassion, and non-harming. Replace negative intentions with kindness. If you feel anger towards someone, practice thinking from their perspective to foster empathy. Right speech, speaking truthfully and kindly. Avoid lies, gossip, or harsh words. Before speaking, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Right action, acting ethically and without harming others. Refrain from stealing, killing, or engaging in behavior that causes harm to others or oneself. Right livelihood, choosing an occupation that does not exploit or harm others. For instance, seeking work that contributes positively to society rather than pursuing selfish gain. Right effort, committing to mental and emotional growth. This involves letting go of harmful habits and cultivating wholesome ones. For example, replacing self-criticism with self-compassion. Right mindfulness, being fully present in the moment. This means observing your thoughts, emotions, and actions without judgment. In a busy world, take a moment to pause and notice the beauty of a single breath. Right concentration, developing deep mental focus through meditation. This practice strengthens your ability to remain calm, centered, and insightful. Each step of the Eightfold Path works together to purify our actions, thoughts, and intentions, ultimately leading us to a life free from suffering. The Buddha said, "Those who follow the right path will find peace." Reflection and application. The Noble Eightfold Path is not a rigid set of rules, but a guide for living a meaningful life. Start by applying small changes in your daily routine. Practice mindfulness during meals. Speak kindly to a colleague. Or take a moment to reflect on impermanence. Over time, these small steps can lead to profound transformations. Here, Buddha once said, "On wisdom and knowledge," the Buddha said, "an idea that is developed and put into action is more important than an idea that exists only as an idea." Wisdom is not static, it must guide action to be meaningful. A fool is known by his speech, and a wise man by silence. In silence, we learn. In wisdom, we act. Through perseverance, wisdom is gained. Stay diligent in your efforts to understand the truth. Wisdom grows with patience and experience. On compassion and kindness, the Buddha said, radiate boundless love toward the entire world. Love and compassion are limitless when practiced without condition. Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Respond to anger with kindness. This is the highest form of strength. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Do not neglect self-compassion. Only then can you truly give to others. On inner peace, the Buddha said, do not overrate what you have received, nor envy others. He who envies others does not obtain peace of mind. Contentment is the key to inner calm. Better than 1,000 hollow words is one word that brings peace. Let your words be meaningful and aimed toward creating harmony. Letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. Release attachments to find true happiness. On enlightenment, the Buddha said, those who have conquered themselves will find the truth. Mastering one's thoughts and emotions is the path to true wisdom. Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious. Awareness of our flaws and shadows is necessary for growth. A disciplined mind brings happiness. Train the mind to focus on what truly matters, and joy will follow. On meditation, the Buddha said, meditation brings wisdom. Lack of meditation leaves ignorance. Through meditation, we discover the clarity to face life's challenges. The mind is everything. Shape it well through meditation. Our thoughts shape our reality. Meditation refines those thoughts. Delight in meditation and solitude. Compose yourself. Be happy. You are a seeker. In moments of stillness, we find profound joy and purpose. On impermanence, anicca. Impermanence, or anicca, is one of the 3 marks of existence in Buddhist philosophy, alongside suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. It represents the universal truth that all things, whether material or immaterial, are subject to change. Nothing is fixed, and everything is in a constant state of flux. The Buddha said, all conditioned things are impermanent. Work diligently to gain liberation. This statement captures the essence of impermanence, recognizing the transient nature of all phenomena allows us to detach from clinging, which is the root cause of suffering. Impermanence is not a reason for despair, but a guide to freedom. Imagine a flower. It blooms in full splendor, but with time, it wilts and fades. This natural process of birth, growth, decay, and death is reflected in every aspect of life, from our bodies to our emotions, relationships, and possessions. Acknowledging this impermanence helps us appreciate the beauty of each moment, while also preparing us for its inevitable end. Life is like a river, ever flowing and never the same. Each moment is unique, just as a river changes course and form, so do our lives. By observing this truth, we cultivate adaptability and gratitude. Practice for reflection. Sit in silence and reflect on one aspect of your life that has changed, perhaps a relationship, a career, or even your physical body. Acknowledge the emotions tied to these changes and consider how they've shaped your present self. Inhale deeply, welcoming the wisdom of change, and exhale, releasing any resistance to it. Meditation exercise. Focus on your breath. Notice how each inhalation and exhalation is different. Even within the span of a single breath, there is change. This awareness anchors us in the present and reminds us of the fleeting nature of all things. On suffering dukkha, suffering or dukkha is central to the Buddhist teachings. It encompasses all forms of dissatisfaction, unease, and discomfort in life. The Buddha's first noble truth acknowledges that life involves suffering, but his teachings offer a path to overcome it. The Buddha said, birth is suffering, aging is suffering, illness is suffering, and death is suffering. To be separated from what one loves is suffering. To be united with what one does not love is suffering. This comprehensive view of suffering highlights its various forms, from physical pain to emotional distress. However, suffering is not meant to be a pessimistic outlook on life. Rather, It is an invitation to understand its causes and find liberation. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. While pain arises naturally as part of life, suffering results from our attachment, aversion, and ignorance. For instance, clinging to fleeting pleasures or resisting inevitable changes amplifies our distress. Key insight: the Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving tanha and attachment. We desire things to be a certain way, and when reality diverges from our expectations, we experience suffering. The antidote is to cultivate acceptance and let go of attachment. Meditation exercise. Reflect on a recent experience of dissatisfaction. Was it tied to a desire for something to be different? Imagine releasing that desire. What emotions arise when you let go of control? Sit with this feeling of openness and observe how it lightens your heart. On desire and craving tanha. Desire, or tanha, is the second noble truth and the primary cause of suffering. It manifests in three forms: craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. The Buddha said, "Craving is like a thief who robs you of your peace." This metaphor illustrates how unfulfilled desires disrupt our inner calm. Whether it's the longing for material possessions, recognition, or emotional states, craving leads to restlessness and dissatisfaction. The more you grasp, the more you lose. Clinging to desires is like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through your fingers, leaving you with nothing. Practical application. Consider how craving manifests in daily life. For example, we might crave success and feel empty even after achieving it because the craving itself has no endpoint. Recognizing this pattern helps us redirect our energy toward what truly matters. Meditation exercise. Visualize a desire you've been holding onto tightly. Imagine placing it into a stream and watching it flow away. As it disappears, feel the weight of attachment lifting from your heart. On mindfulness sati. Mindfulness, or sati, is the foundation of Buddhist practice. It involves maintaining awareness of the present moment without judgment. The Buddha said, "When walking, walk. When eating, eat. Be fully present in all you do." This teaching emphasizes emphasizes simplicity and focus. By bringing mindful attention to each action, we deepen our connection to life and cultivate peace. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. But the present is where life unfolds. Mindfulness anchors us in the now, freeing us from the regrets of yesterday and the anxieties of tomorrow. Benefits of mindfulness. Clarity. Mindfulness reveals the nature of our thoughts and emotions, helping us respond rather than react. Calmness. By staying present, we reduce the mental clutter that often overwhelms us. Compassion. Mindfulness fosters empathy for ourselves and others by increasing our understanding of shared experiences. Meditation. Exercise. Choose a simple activity, such as drinking tea or brushing your teeth. Focus entirely on the sensations, movements, and sounds involved. Notice how this intentional awareness transforms an ordinary act into a sacred ritual. On wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom, or prajna, arises from understanding the nature of reality. It is cultivated through study, reflection, and meditation. The Buddha said, "A mind unshaken by the winds of life is the seat of wisdom." This teaching reminds us that wisdom provides stability in the face of life's uncertainties. It allows us to see beyond surface appearances and grasp deeper truths. Wisdom begins when we let go of what we think we know. True understanding requires humility and openness to new perspectives. Key insight. Wisdom is not merely intellectual, it is experiential. It grows through direct engagement with life's challenges and lessons. Meditation exercise. Reflect on a past difficulty that taught you a valuable lesson. How did that experience shape your understanding of yourself and the world? Express gratitude for the growth it brought. On impermanence, anicca. Impermanence, or anicca, is one of the three marks of existence in Buddhist philosophy, alongside suffering, dukkha, and non-self anatta. It represents the universal truth that all things, whether material or immaterial, are subject to change. Nothing is fixed, and everything is in a constant state of flux. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Work diligently to gain liberation." This statement captures the essence of impermanence, recognizing the transient nature of all phenomena allows us to detach from clinging, which is the root cause of suffering. Impermanence is not a reason for despair, but a guide to freedom. Imagine a flower. It blooms in full splendor, but with time, it wilts and fades. This natural process of birth, growth, decay, and death is reflected in every aspect of life, from our bodies to our emotions, relationships, and possessions. Acknowledging this impermanence helps us appreciate the beauty of each moment, while also preparing us for its inevitable end. Life is like a river, ever flowing and never the same. Each moment is unique, just as a river changes course and form, so do our lives. By observing this truth, we cultivate adaptability and gratitude. Practice for reflection. Sit in silence and reflect on one aspect of your life that has changed, perhaps a relationship, a career, or even your physical body. Acknowledge the emotions tied to these changes and consider how they've shaped your present self. Inhale deeply, welcoming the wisdom of change, and exhale, releasing any resistance to it. Meditation exercise. Focus on your breath. Notice how each inhalation and exhalation is different, even within the span of a single breath. There is change. This awareness anchors us in the present and reminds us of the fleeting nature of all things. On suffering, suffering or dukkha is central to the Buddhist teachings. It encompasses all forms of dissatisfaction, unease, and discomfort in life. The Buddha's first noble truth acknowledges that life involves suffering, but his teachings offer a path to overcome it. The Buddha said, "Birth is suffering, aging is suffering, illness is suffering, and death is suffering." To be separated from what one loves is suffering. To be united with what one does not love is suffering. This comprehensive view of suffering highlights its various forms, from physical pain to emotional distress. However, suffering is not meant to be a pessimistic outlook on life. Rather, it is an invitation to understand its causes and find liberation. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. While pain arises naturally as part of life, suffering results from our attachment, aversion, and ignorance. For instance, clinging to fleeting pleasures or resisting inevitable changes amplifies our distress. Key insight. The Buddha taught that suffering arises from craving, tanha, and attachment. We desire things to be a certain way, and when reality diverges from our expectations, we experience suffering. The antidote is to cultivate acceptance and let go of attachment. Meditation exercise. Reflect on a recent experience of dissatisfaction. Was it tied to a desire for something to be different? Imagine releasing that desire. What emotions arise when you let go of control? Sit with this feeling of openness and observe how it lightens your heart. On desire and craving, tanha. Desire, or tanha, is the second noble truth and the primary cause of suffering. It manifests in three forms: craving for sensual pleasures, craving for existence, and craving for non-existence. The Buddha said, "Craving is like a thief who robs you of your peace." This metaphor illustrates how unfulfilled desires disrupt our inner calm. Whether it's the longing for material possessions, recognition, or emotional states, craving leads to restlessness and dissatisfaction. The more you grasp, the more you lose. Clinging to desires is like trying to hold water in your hands. It slips through your fingers, leaving you with nothing. Practical application. Consider how craving manifests in daily life. For example, we might crave success and feel empty even after achieving it because the craving itself has no endpoint. Recognizing this pattern helps us redirect our energy toward what truly matters. Meditation exercise. Visualize a desire you've been holding onto tightly. Imagine placing it into a stream and watching it flow away. As it disappears, feel the weight of attachment lifting from your heart. On mindfulness sati. Mindfulness, or sati, is the foundation of Buddhist practice. It involves maintaining awareness of the present moment without judgment. The Buddha said, "When walking, walk. When eating, eat. Be fully present in all you do." This teaching emphasizes simplicity and focus. By bringing mindful attention to each action, we deepen our connection to life and cultivate peace. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. But the present is where life unfolds. Mindfulness anchors us in the now, freeing us from the regrets of yesterday and the anxieties of tomorrow. Benefits of mindfulness. Clarity. Mindfulness reveals the nature of our thoughts and emotions, helping us respond rather than react. Calmness. By staying present, we reduce the mental clutter that often overwhelms us. Compassion. Mindfulness fosters empathy for ourselves and others by increasing our understanding of shared experiences. Meditation exercise. Choose a simple activity, such as drinking tea or brushing your teeth. Focus entirely on the sensations, movements, and sounds involved. Notice how this intentional awareness transforms an ordinary act into a sacred ritual. On wisdom and knowledge. Wisdom, or prajna, arises from understanding the nature of reality. It is cultivated through study, reflection, and meditation. The Buddha said, "A mind unshaken by the winds of life is the seat of wisdom." This teaching reminds us that wisdom provides stability in the face of life's uncertainties. It allows us to see beyond surface appearances and grasp deeper truths. Wisdom begins when we let go of what we think we know. True understanding requires humility and openness to new perspectives. Key insight. Wisdom is not merely intellectual, it is experiential. It grows through direct engagement with life's challenges and lessons. Meditation exercise. Reflect on a past difficulty that taught you a valuable lesson. How did that experience shape your understanding of yourself and the world? Express gratitude for the growth it brought. On compassion. Karuna. Compassion, or karuna, is central to Buddhist practice and embodies the deep desire to alleviate the suffering of all beings. The Buddha said, "Just as a mother would protect her only child, even at the risk of her own life, so too should one cultivate boundless compassion for all living beings." Compassion begins with the recognition of suffering in ourselves and others. It is not pity, but a profound connection and willingness to act with kindness. Compassion is the quenching rain for the fire of suffering. When we extend compassion, we not only ease the suffering of others but also find inner peace and joy. On forgiveness. Forgiveness is a transformative practice in Buddhism that fosters healing and inner freedom. The Buddha taught that holding onto resentment is like drinking poison and expecting another to suffer. The Buddha said, hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule. Forgiveness does not mean condoning harmful actions, but releasing the emotional burden tied to anger and resentment. By letting go of these feelings, we liberate ourselves from suffering. Reflection. Think of someone or something you have struggled to forgive. Reflect on how holding onto this resentment affects your well-being. Imagine releasing this burden and offering compassion instead. Meditation practice. Inhale deeply and think, I forgive myself and others. Exhale slowly and think, I release all anger and resentment.